Now, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in today. I've got a very awesome guest with me. And this is my first interview. We've been doing these summits kind of talking about all these other albums and stuff. But my first official interview that I'm doing, Mr. Kurt Frohlich from LA Guns.
Hello.
What's up, man? How you
Hey,
doing?
how's it going?
Going very well. I'm super glad that you came on, man, and thank you for taking time to do this.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Appreciate it.
It's a big episode, the very first interview, so I'm sure you can hear my voice shaking. I'm on the verge of tears right now of nervousness. Just kidding. It's not that bad, but little butterflies, going into the first interview because I don't know if you've been on this side of the interview before, but after, years of being on that side where people are asking you the questions, it can be a little nerve-wracking being on this. It's like, I hope I keep the conversation going well and it's interesting stuff that I bring up. So cool. Hopefully everybody has a good time tuning into this. So thanks again for coming on, man. This is very cool.
Absolutely.
All right, let's just go ahead and jump into this. So you originally from Edmonton, Alberta, correct?
Yes.
So what's a young Kurt's first experience with rock and roll in Edmonton?
I got my cousin was in a rock band and he would practice in my parents' basement and they would wear like makeup and stuff. This was like the 70s, like late 70s. So, and I was like, I picked up the drummer gave me drumsticks. So I was all, and my cousin gave me my first Kiss album at the age of 6. So I put that on my Mickey Mouse turntable that I had in my room. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, that was it, man. That was,
That's great. Which Kiss record was that?
It was the first self-titled album.
Oh, nice. Great. I'm sure the lighting's a little weird, but that's a entire wall
there you
Kiss
go.
behind me. So
in front of me, you can't see I have my little Kiss shrine with my Ace Frehley solo picture album up there.
Well, cool. We'll just turn this into a 3-hour-long chat about Kiss. So
yeah, that works.
Well, cool. So the first album, when that came out, did you dive into that pretty hard, or was it more of it kind of branched you out into the whole rock and roll experience, or were you a Kiss diehard from that first album?
I just, back in the 70s, that was right when Kiss Meets the Phantom came out and stuff like that. So it was like, it wasn't right when that album came out, but that was the first one he gave me. And then after that, I remember going into the record store with my mom and I bought like Dynasty and
nice
all that. So like, that's when it just kind of took fire. And then I wanted to play drums like Peter Criss. So I took drum lessons. And my teacher was from the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, and she tried to teach a 8-year-old rudiments and all this stuff. And I was like, no, I want to play Strutter.
Yeah, nice.
That's what I wanted. So that didn't work. And so fast forward to like 15, I was trying to play drums in a high school band. We played like Who covers and stuff. And then from there, I just picked up the guitar and then.
Nice. So you started on drums and then made the transition to guitar. What was really inspired that? Was that a situation with the guys you were jamming with that something just kind of became available, or did you just want to be out in front more?
I think so. I think they would leave their guitar behind. Like it was in my parents' basement. I had a drum kit that my cousin lent me, and they would leave their little Fender practice amp and I remember he had a Fender Strat, and he'd leave it over, and I'd start to learn. He showed me how to play like some chords, and then my dad had a classical gut string guitar. He taught me the basic chords, the cowboy chords, A, D, G, nice. All those. And then my cousin who lent me the drum kit turned me on to CCR, and he put on cassette CCR's greatest hits, and I learned all those songs on guitar because all those songs are pretty much those chords.
It's just straightforward rock. Those are good. Those songs always translate well when you're doing the solo acoustic shows, I found.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Good stuff.
And, from there, then I just dove. Once I started guitar, obviously, all the guitar heroes came in. Like, I fell in love with Van Halen, and I wanted to be in Van Halen, so I started a band that was like, like that. The 4 characters guys like Kiss and Van Halen and like that that vibe. So yeah, from there I just dove into guitar, like
Nice.
Steve Vai, all that
I
stuff.
was telling somebody the other day, you know, Slash and Ace Frehley are my two favorite guitarists, and they are who really made me want to be a lead guitarist. But, you know, Eddie was the guy that made you want to be the best lead guitarist.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just that man, rest in peace, of course, just that nobody will ever touch, I don't think, what that man did for the lead guitar position, you know, so that's a huge testament to that guy. But I've always said that he's the one that made everybody want to be the best at what they were doing.
Yeah. And he had so many elements to him. He built his own guitars. He modded all his amps to make them sound like him. Like,
oh, he was like, a true child of the craft, man.
Yeah. He was just like, you know, he did it all. He could play like Slash. He could play like Jimmy Page. Whereas a lot of those guys from the 80s could shred, you know, play like noodly stuff, but
they were all trying to be Eddie.
Yeah, they really were.
And I think that's why Slash was so shocking when he came out, because everybody was playing the pointy guitars and he comes out with a Les Paul, and nobody had seen one in 15 years, really.
I remember when I made the transfer, I have a Jackson. Hold on, let's have it on the wall here. I'm going to grab it.
Nice. Hell yeah. I'm always down for the cool artifacts.
Sorry.
Oh, dude, no, you're good.
I had this guitar.
Nice. That's
when I was, you know, it's a handmade Jackson from the 80s. And nice. I went from that band. Sorry, I got to put my in-ears back in. I went from playing that to, I remember it was like 91, 92, where it was like, those guitars, you didn't play those in bands anymore. And I got my first Les Paul. I got my first custom Les Paul. That's, you know, so I remember that transition. Yeah.
Cool. So when you get out of high school, was playing music what you were doing full time right out of high school?
Yeah, I was in high school and I was in bands in high school, and we, you know, played cover shows around town at the all ages places, and everything from Black Sabbath to Mr. Big to, you know, whatever. And then I finished high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, so I went to music college.
Oh,
and
nice.
I studied theory, and it was a heavy jazz curriculum. So it was really tough for the rock players. It was, you know, it was not easy. If you're a rock player, you were frowned upon.
Yeah, whenever I was in high school, I played guitar in jazz band in Florida. I actually went to high school briefly in New Smyrna Beach. I know you're in Orlando, so pretty close to that. But it was, man, I still say to this day, playing guitar in jazz band, I learned some chords and just some nuances that I never would have found in a million years on my own. So I definitely can feel that. It's the band director, you know, when you take a solo and you're going full Chuck Berry in that box, it's like,
exactly,
you got to dial it back a little. And I couldn't read music at all, so the director would have to like actually write out the chords above the staff for me. So
it was very challenging. It was like, I don't know how many times my teacher told me, time to hit the woodshed.
No, I can definitely relate to that very much. But like I said, still stuff that I incorporated into my playing still to this day that I never would have stumbled upon myself. So it's all very useful.
I wanted to just keep playing. I wanted to have my guitar in my hands every day. And that was what most of my reasoning to go to music college. So, and from there I got offered to play in a working road band in, I can't remember what year, maybe 92 or something around there. And so I went out and we played in Canada. You would play, the clubs where you play a full week, and then travel day was Sunday. You'd travel, but you play like 4 sets a night for like Monday through Saturday. And so I did that for a few years in cover bands, and we wrote originals or whatever. But that's kind of where you got my feet wet playing live and, you know, performing.
Yeah, those like 3-4 hour gigs where you're doing 3 sets of all the songs that people want to hear that are on the radio. So, I mean, I still do shit like that to this day. So it's, when you're a fan of the music, it's not really as tedious as some people would think, you know, where you're pumping out these radio hits. It's like, I'm a fan of the music, so it's still a joy to me to play those songs.
Yeah. I have a band here. We're called the Hooligans. We just do British rock.
Nice.
None of us are British. It started in Vegas with Les Warner from the Cult on drums, so he was British.
Okay, cool.
That's how we started. And then when I moved out here, I started up here. And actually, you play with Todd Kearns. Todd Kearns was in that for a while in Vegas. We were called the Limey Bar Stewards. But we just play stuff, and it's a working band. We just play stuff we love. T-Rex, The Sweet, Bowie,
Nice.
you know,
Very cool.
Sabbath, Beatles, Stones, Zeppelin, of course, but lots of Who songs and, you know, stuff that we want to play.
So this band that you, the working band you started playing with, were you guys breaking out into the States at all, or were you mostly staying in Canada?
Oh, no, that was, you didn't really, the only time I started playing in the United States was when I got into a Kiss tribute right after that in about 93. And the story behind that, long story short, I'll tell you fast, is the singer had an original band. And a friend of mine said, hey, this guy out of Vancouver has an original band and he's managed by Paul Stanley. And I said, what? I'm listening.
Nice.
You know, and they sent me the cassettes of the originals and I loved it. It sounded like 1984 Van Halen. That's
Cool.
what it sounded like. But this was 93, remember? So
so that shit wasn't as cool then. Everybody was listening to like Alice in Chains and stuff like that at that point.
So I drove out to audition to Vancouver for this original band, and I got the gig. And we sent Paul Stanley demos in the mail, cassette demos, CDs, whatever. And he came back to it and he said, I can't do anything with this. It's not, like you said, it's not, people aren't listening to this. They're not buying this right now. So we said, what about doing a Kiss tribute? And he said, yeah, you have our blessing to do it. And so we went off and hired a 4-man crew and did a big show. And I toured with that a lot. And that was kind of my rock and roll university, you know?
That's so cool, man. And yeah, you know, I still play in tributes to this day. I've got a GNR tribute. So I know some people kind of shy away from that fact, you know, once they get a little more in the public eye. But going back to, like I just said a few minutes ago, it kind of falls into the same situation where you're such a fan of these songs where it's like it's always fun to play them.
Yeah.
So definitely that's still a big part of my life. As you can see, we did a User Losing One Verse 2 episode last night. And I've still got all the GNR shit sitting out for that in the background.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So that's awesome that, you know, the whole Kiss tribute started as, you know, off a conversation with Paul Stanley. Yeah. So with the Kiss tribute and everything, I know that you moved to Vegas in the late 90s. What kind of inspired that transition to Vegas from Canada?
I had an original band called The Loving Dead, and it was like a hard rock, 70s glam rock, Bowie meets Rob Zombie type vibe, you know, like that type of thing. And they had an office in Las Vegas, and they wanted to get us signed to a deal in the States, not in Canada, because Canada was kind of, you know, we wanted to go beyond that. And a lot of bands would sign Canadian deals and not break out of Canada. So we moved to the States, and we rehearsed and tried to get things going. And that the management company went away. They went bankrupt. So I was like, I'm not going home. I want to stay here. So I figured it out and got a visa and just kept pounding away at it, trying to work, playing in cover bands. And from there I got gigs that wouldn't have been available in Canada. Like I got the singing gig for Faster Pussycat and
which Todd was playing with them as well during that time, correct?
Yeah. Well, I helped Todd get into the United States through a company.
Oh, nice.
Through Perfect World Entertainment. And so he worked with me and all these other bands too. So we kind of pounded away at it, you know, playing covers, doing what we had to do. And the companies would do our visas and stuff. And he played in the Kiss thing for a while too. And I was playing in an original band with Brent Muscat.
Okay, nice.
Called the Underground Rebels. We changed the name from the Loving Dead to the Underground Rebels. And Brent came to me and said, I'm trying to do a reunion thing with Faster Pussycat. And he reached out to Tammy, and Tammy didn't want to do it. He said, do you want to do it? I got, you know, Brett and Eric on board. We need a guitar player. And I go, I know the guy. I got a guy. He didn't even know Todd yet, I don't think.
That's awesome.
So I said, Todd, you want to play in Faster Pussycat? I know, like Todd's going to kill it. He sings amazing. He plays his guitar. And so that's kind of then we started doing that.
Yeah, Todd's a very fantastically talented guy. I consider myself very lucky to be working with him in the capacity I am. One thing I wanted to touch on, man, Las Vegas, it really seems like there's a really accepting music community there. So what was it like being an out-of-towner coming into that situation in town there?
Well, I arrived there in 99. And I tell you what, the casinos there and the gigs, there wasn't rock gigs like that, like there is now.
Yeah.
I remember I was playing in a casino. I was doing a duo because there wasn't a lot of rock band gigs. There was like maybe the House of Blues and there was a few like lounge gigs, but they weren't playing AC/DC and stuff like that. Like that was taboo. I remember playing in a working gig somewhere, and me and my buddy, we were playing like Cheap Trick and Kiss and all sorts of stuff, acoustic, and he would play bass, I'd play acoustic. And they were like, they're saying, the agent would call and say, they say you guys are playing like heavy metal. And it's like, they want like, I don't know, Margaritaville and shit. And they're like, well, we don't do that. This is what, so I remember back then, man, like it was way different in 99 and 2000 than it is. And
I've been in those situations with gigs where you're there and you get a few songs into it and you're just like, uh-oh, this is not the crowd that is going to be totally receptive of what's going on. So that can be a little nerve-wracking sometime, and you just kind of try to power through it, and
entertainment-wise, Vegas was a different town in the year 2000 than it was even in 2010.
Yeah, so you started working with the Sin City Sinners, correct? You helped produce one of their albums and then started playing live when Todd wasn't around, correct?
Yeah, Todd and I and Dee, who is original bass player for Sin City Sinners, we had bands together and worked in different bands together. And then those guys started the Sin City Sinners. And when it came to recording their Fremont Street album, I co-produced that with Todd and did it all in my studio and played some guitar, sang on it, and did lots of stuff with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I've done a lot of work. Even their acoustic album, I did some work on it, along with some of Todd's acoustic album stuff. Recorded some of that with them, and then when Todd was gone, when he left to do Slash, or they needed a sub for Brent or whatever, they always called me, and I came in and would play with them.
Cool. Were you playing with them? I think Zack Throne plays with them, correct? Now, in certain capacities. Did you guys get to jam together in that band?
I don't know if Zack and I ever played together on a gig.
Cool.
I think it was Mike Ellis was mostly playing bass when I would sub in, but even before that, I think I played with. They had a few bass players. I played with Dee on some gigs and a few different guys, but yeah, I've been in the Sin City Sinners family for quite a while from the start.
Yeah, I was talking to Todd yesterday whenever we were setting this up, and he mentioned to me that the first time that he ever played on stage with Bruce Kulick was with you, and I thought that was very interesting.
Oh,
Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, that was when my Kiss tribute Black Diamond in the 90s. We were doing a Guinness Book of World Records event. And we were gonna play Rock and Roll Night for we wanted to set the record for playing it the longest and with the most guitar players in the crowd. So we were the house band, so we had guest stars. Everybody from Michelangelo from Nitro.
Oh, nice.
Todd, it was in Vancouver where Todd's band Age of Electric is a big band.
Yeah.
So Todd was going to be a guest, and guys from Zucker Baby, awesome Vancouver band. And Bruce Kulick was like the big star of he came. So we played Rock and Roll Night with, I don't know, a few hundred guitar players in the crowd for like over 4 hours or something crazy.
Whoa.
And we just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. And then someone would come up and solo breaks, and it would be, or Todd would sing a verse.
So were you guys playing the song and then just when the song was over, you'd start it again, or were you repeating sections to where it never ended for that 4 hours?
It was like you'd play the song, and at the end of I want to rock and roll and party every day.
Just go back into the verse.
Go back into the first verse.
Holy shit, man!
Dude. After
is
that, I
fucking
was like,
awesome, man.
after that, I was like, I don't want to play rock and roll night for a year.
Never want to hear that song again in my life. Whoa,
But
man,
yeah,
that is great.
I think it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know. It's I think Bruce Kulick's name with band Black Diamond or something. I don't know. But
That's fucking awesome, dude. I gotta do a little more research.
But I remember setting up. I talked to Bruce before the show, and I was setting up his amp, and he said, "Make it loud." I'm like, it was a full Marshall stack, 2 cabinets. He goes, "Just make it loud." I was like, because he wasn't gonna have a chance to check. So I said, okay. So I checked it, cranked it up, and he started playing, and it was so loud that it popped the.
Man!
It popped the outputs from the speaker cabinet from the compression of the sound.
That is wild.
So I'm like, and they were like, "What's going on?"
So what year was that exactly?
Oh man, that had to be like around 96, 97.
Okay, so this is like Bruce is like fresh out of at that time we didn't really know he was out of Kiss, but this is like when the reunion tour and all that stuff was happening.
I can't remember. It was probably pretty close to the reunion. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's a wild story. Thanks for sharing that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to touch on that since Todd brought that up yesterday. Cause as you know, Todd plays in Bruce's band now with Zach and Brent, and those guys kill it. That is,
man, they're killer. Yeah.
I go and watch those sets at least like once a week now, just because Todd kills those Paul Stanley vocals on those songs. And now that they've got Zack Throne in the band, dude, he does a great Gene Simmons. I remember watching the clip of Unholy for the first time. I was just like, man, that voice, that's Gene.
I played in a showroom band with Zach called Metal Shop, and he was the singer, and I play guitar.
Nice. Hell yeah. Zach's actually going to be doing some backing vocals on one of our tracks on the new Monfield record.
That guy can do anything, man. He's great.
Yeah. I mean, and that Todd just surrounds himself with awesome people. So, if Todd's like, hey, we should work with this guy, it's the guy's going to be a badass. So it's very, very fortunate to be in that situation. So just to touch a little briefly on this, you getting involved with Steve Reilly and Kelly's LA Guns, which is assigned to Golden Robot Records, which is Minefield assigned to them as well. Kind of briefly go into how you got that gig, if you don't mind.
It all started with in Las Vegas. I'm in Orlando now, a couple of years ago, and my name got thrown in the hat because they were looking for a singer because they were going to do one gig at M3.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I got a call from Steve Reilly, and he was really interested. He did his homework on me. He looked at all the videos on YouTube, and the circle of musicians in LA and Vegas. He asked about me and realized that I was reliable and professional, and I learned my shit.
Well, that's cool, man. And I think that you guys are doing great. I love the singles that are out on Golden Robot right now. And kind of segue into that, were you involved in the process of choosing to sign with Golden Robot?
We did that one gig at M3, which that was all we were going to do. And then out of that M3 gig, we got the deal with Golden Robot, and we got a management deal and everything. So Steve sent an email out and said, we got a record deal. We were all like, what?
Okay, so that was mostly Steve that worked that out with Mark and those guys.
And Eric Baker, Eric Baker, our manager.
Well, cool. Yeah, I can't speak for you guys, but I've had a very awesome experience working with Mark.
Mark is awesome at Golden Robot, man.
Yeah, they kill it with their PR. They're super responsive to the bands. It's like if I have a question when I email these guys, I'm not waiting around for a week to hear back from them. So, because they've got a really awesome team, that's constantly, checking in on the bands and everything. So
yeah, they want to build it. They want to build a brand. They just don't want to throw out a record.
Dude, they're slowly dead. I find it weird that they're still referred to as an indie label, because it's not really an indie label. There's some pretty big bands signed to Golden Robot, like you guys and King's X, which is one of my favorite bands of all time. And then you have some Australian greats like Rose Tattoo, and then Gilby's band Hookers and Blow, which Todd played with them a few times. And my bandmate from Minefield, Matt Starr, played with them briefly.
Yep.
So there's a lot of heavy hitters signed to Golden Robot, and they've got like 9 labels underneath them now. So I always find it, it's like we did Appetite for Distortion. It was me, Todd, and Mark, and he got asked about it. They're like, you're slowly turning into a conglomerate. And Mark was like, yeah, we really are. So I think that's a testament to the kind of work that those guys are doing. And I have to give them a lot of thanks for all the help that they've been giving us. So kind of brief us on your relationship with Golden Robot and what it's been like working with them for you.
They've been really supportive and smart, and they're like troopers for rock and roll, man. They're like, people want to hear fresh rock and roll music, and they're delivering it to people, and the people that want it are responding. And it's, it's not just, it's a worldwide thing. So that's what's great. They're getting it out to the world, not just the United States, and
yeah, not just Australia. And
yeah,
because that's the thing that kind of gets touched on a lot, is that they're from Australia. So you think that it's mostly going to be Australian PR and stuff like that. But those guys do such a good job of, getting everything around the world.
Yeah, they've been really supportive, and I can't say enough about their team and everything. They're busting their ass for this new record, and the record drops Friday the 13th, November 13th. So
that's next week, correct?
Mm-hmm.
A week from today, actually. So definitely looking forward to checking that out. So going into the new LA Guns record titled Renegades, out on Golden Robot Records for everybody listening. I know you've talked about before, all 4 of you helped write the tunes for the record. So was there any material that you brought in that was kind of older stuff that you were like, all right, I'm going to bring this in as a LA Guns song now?
Yes.
Or was it mostly fresh material?
No,
okay,
it was a lot of my older material that I was like, this is influenced by, those LA bands.
Yeah.
The sleazy rock thing in the 80s. And I'm like, this could work. And then the guys would put their thing out. Let's change this section. Let's take this out. Let's change this lyric or whatever. So we all collaborated on everything. Whoever brought their stuff to the table, and everyone got songs on the album. So it has that diversity where it doesn't sound like it's one person that brought all the songs in. And at the same time, it's 3-dimensional because everyone has their input on it. It's not like, play this chord, do that. It wasn't like that.
Where the song's done and you're just sending over the Pro Tools session to where they're just tacking on their part. So
the great thing about it is that we got to do it in a studio in Hollywood. We were all there together and created it together. And I think you can hear that on the record.
That was going to be my next question, was some of this done more remote, or were you guys in the studio? But that kind of answers it. So who was the producer you guys were working with on this?
Well, Steve Reilly produced it.
Okay. Cool.
Steve put it all together, and we recorded at Stag Street Studios, and June produced it. He just finished working on the new Tool record at that time.
Oh, wow.
And then he started working with us, and he was great. June, our engineer, he knew what we were going for. So he just, really.
And it always helps when you've got a guy that, creates a comfortable environment. And, because I'm sure you've been there before. You go into the studio and it's like you're punching in your clock at work. And, it's always nice when you can go in and it's like, no, we're just here recording this music that we are very excited about. And I think that's very reflective on albums like that. And you can definitely hear that on these tunes that you guys have released, that you guys gel really well together. And I think you've touched on this before, and when people hear this stuff, they're hearing Kurt, they're hearing you. This is your natural playing style. So
yeah,
I think it comes across as genuine, and I think that's a lot of the reason that it's getting such good reception.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate people having an open mind. I know I'm not the original singer, but
man,
they're getting a little bit more.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, man, it's like there's no reason you can't enjoy both bands. And, it's like Guns N' Roses during that Chinese democracy time. You had the people that were like, no, I don't like Guns N' Roses right now because Slash and all them aren't in the band. It's like, dude, you're getting new music I don't understand what the problem is about it. So I think you can support both bands and all that. And, you know, we won't get into that too much. I want to kind of talk about what you guys are specifically doing. But I just wanted to let you know that from everything that I've heard, and it all comes across as very genuine, and that's a big part of it.
Great. Yeah, like I said, we appreciate people having an open mind and checking it out.
Well, I mean, those guys had a very big part in the band's history and still do to this day. So it's
Absolutely.
ongoing. And I love the fact that Kelly Nichols is jamming again, you know, because it had been a while since anybody had seen him in the LA Guns capacity. So it's very awesome because he's an integral part to that, as well as Faster Pussycat as well. That's cool that there's that connection with Kelly with both of the bands that you jammed with.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah. So how would you compare the writing process for this album to some of the other bands that you've been in? Was it a more natural feeling this time around?
Well, it was. We had to have our homework done because, you know, budgets aren't what they used to be for an album. So
yeah, you can't go spend 3 months at the studio just coming and going as you please.
So we all Kelly lives in New York, Scotty lives in Vegas, and Steve in LA. So we all had to fly in. We all had to know the material that we submitted, that we narrowed it down to. We had 3 days to do pre-production, which was not in the studio, it was in a rehearsal studio.
Okay.
So we pretty much used that to rehearse and get the songs how we wanted them, which was, you know, we could have used another 10 days to do that. So we went in the studio and recorded 10 songs in 7 days. And so everything had to be done.
Well, I think that's another testament to the musicianship, is that you could go in and, you know, be that
a testament
ready.
to for Steve to get it all organized and run like that. Like, that's a businessman too, to get, like, shit could have fallen apart pretty easily.
Yeah. And I mean, we see it all the time. There's guys that are exponentially talented, more talented than some people. And, you know, they never really hit that stride, or they never get that next step. And because, you know, it's only about how you played that solo so much. So that's a very good testament to, you know, to Steve's work ethic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If without that work ethic that we had on that record, it wouldn't have got done.
Yeah. So I know that you guys have talked about there being some more, there's a ballad or two on the album, which is, you know, it's going to be all 3 of the singles were, you know, were hard rock. So I'm very interested in hearing those. Do you want to touch on one of the 2 of the ballads that you guys got on this record?
I would just say that they're, you know, Ballad of Jane was LA Guns' biggest hit, which Kelly wrote.
Yes.
You know, and Kelly brought a lot of songwriting to the album, even if it was someone else's song, he would give his input, and I would, you know, listen to his experience that he had. And he brought a lot of vibe to everything. So, you know, we got kind of, you know, say a battle like a Stones vibe or something, you know, so it's not like 80s rock, you know, it's still got that sleazy LA Guns type vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, that's something that might get overlooked sometimes, is Kelly had a big part in writing a lot of those tunes back in the day. So
yeah, so did Steve.
When you talk about the sound of classic LA Guns, those guys, man, they had a big hand in that. And that definitely seems, you know, because when people think of bands, they think of the singer and the guitarist, you know, as the one pumping out everything. And drummers especially get a bad rap, you know, sometimes for not being like songwriters, you know, being referred to as that. But those guys definitely, man, as far as bassists and drummers goes, bringing songs to the table, those guys bring some heavy hitters when it comes to lay down some music.
Yeah, and Steve's worked with a lot of big producers, so he brought a lot of experience and know-how on how to get what we were trying to capture, you know.
Well, cool. Don't want to take up too much of your time. So, Kurt, I appreciate you so much coming on here and, you know, chatting with me. One quick thing. This is a little off topic, but, you know, I'd figure I'd bring it up because you were in a Kiss tribute. And so this coming Wednesday is the 44th anniversary of Rock and Roll Over. Where's that sitting for you in your Kiss catalog? What's that album
Very
mean to
high. You see my display, Rock and Roll Over. The album is at the top. You can't see it. It's up there, but I have Rock and Roll Over framed in vinyl up there. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm, Mr. Speed, all that stuff. I love
some great Ace solos on there, man.
Yeah, and I love the production on it.
Yeah.
It's
it always gets referred to as they always said that's the most live Kiss album there is.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, well, they were all, from what I understand, it was basically all recorded live, like they were on a theater stage somewhere, and they kind of just mic'd everything up on the stage, and that was Eddie Kramer on that record, I'm pretty sure.
And you always wonder, like, okay, did Peter Criss play on that record? Because there's so much scandal around, is that Ace playing the solos? Is that, yeah, but.
I think actually the funny part is up until Dynasty, Peter was the one member really that you knew that was him on all the stuff, because even going back, the first record, the first Kiss album is the only Kiss album where all four of them play their own instruments on every track. Because Hotter Than Hell, it started setting the precedent of that was Ace on Parasite on playing bass, which is even weirder since, Gene's singing it. You think he'd picked up the bass for one of the songs that he's singing. It wasn't Ace tune though, but, Peter was kind of consistently, it's like up until Dynasty, and we all know what kind of happened after that. But
after you read all their books, like, you realize, oh yeah, okay, I get, well, like, what a mess,
Yeah, and it's very conflicting because all of them have written their books at different times. So there's there was different hostilities at each section of these books coming out. So you're getting a lot of very interesting perspectives on it. And I've listened to the audiobook for Paul Stanley's.
So did I.
It's man, and it just seems like that guy doesn't like anybody. Just kidding.
Paul's world.
Yeah, just kidding. I mean, we owe basically a lot of Kiss to Paul, because in the 80s, if it wasn't for him, who knows what would have happened with that band. He kept that train going for a long time. And I'm a big fan of the 80s Kiss, man. I know there's some people that are like 70s or nothing, and it's like, no, I love all Kiss. It's all equally as important to me.
Yep.
Well, cool. Everybody listening, Mr. Kurt Frohlich, lead singer of LA Guns. We got 1 week from today, Renegades, the new album, out on Golden Robot Records. And Mark commented on the flyer I posted from this one. Was like, I expect a lot of Golden Robot love. And if it wasn't dirty, I would have had my shirt on from Golden Robot, but I wear it a lot.
Mine's in the wash.
Yeah, mine stays dirty because I wear it all the time. It's great merch. Yeah, I love all the merch that they've got. It's great looking stuff. Your guys' stuff looks great. The vinyl looks very badass that you guys are releasing. I've got to get some of that for my collection.
I got to get some of that.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Well, all right, everybody. Me and you can say goodbye off air, but thanks everybody for tuning in, and definitely go check out the new LA Guns record.